However, today I did come across something that really did surprise me. A man named Josh Pillault, who actively played RuneScape, spent 6 years in jail for being too edgy in the game.
Guys, so I don't know how many of you will actually remember, but about 5 years ago I made a video on this channel talking about a kid called Josh Pillault, who had just been arrested and put in jail for a comment that he said on the game at RuneScape. Reported for it, and he was subsequently arrested for it and charged for it. And despite having no weapons in his home, no kind of materials to make the bombs that he made in his threat, none of that was found in his house. Even the day that he said he was going to carry out this terroristic threat was on a weekend, so the school wasn't even open.
One of the most recent ones happened last October. A 19-year-old by the name of Josh Pillault was playing RuneScape. Reportedly during this game, another player began antagonizing him, harassing him, eventually telling him to go kill himself. And several days later, federal authorities raided the home, and Pillault's been in jail ever since. And in the story, there are reports that, doctors, teachers going on record saying, Josh would never do this. Reportedly, fellow inmates and guards can't believe the kid's still there.
Hello world, it is so good to be back. My name is Joshua Brandon Pillault. I'm currently 25 years of age, and a few months ago I was released from serving 5 years on a 6-year federal prison sentence, an actual total of 1,795 days. On October 8th of 2012 I was arrested, raided by the SWAT team, the FBI, all those fun guys, for transmitting threats to destroy buildings by means of firing explosives, as well as transmitting threats to kill and injure the person of another. I'm sure most people know at this point in the story that this was stemming from some things that I said on the online video game RuneScape while I had been drinking when I was 19. Got in an argument with another player that escalated very quickly when he called me insane and insinuated that I should commit suicide. So I did what every single one of us on that game does and trolled him. Went as hard as I could to try and get a reaction out of him, and instead I accidentally made the government very upset. Before we get started, I would like to take the opportunity to offer the biggest thank you that is imaginable in your mind to every single person that donated to my GoFundMe, that is watching this video now, that left comments on my YouTube page, and prayers and emails and all kinds of things that I just never, all kinds of things that were beyond my wildest dreams. It was very humbling to me to find out that after serving 5 years in there and thinking that I really had nobody except my family, I was welcomed with open arms by a very significant portion of the internet community, and I would like to thank everybody for that. Thank you for the GoFundMe, thank you for your comments and your likes and for caring. Thank you very much. I can't even put it into words. So I figured a good idea for this first video would be for me to answer some of the most frequently asked questions that I am posed by people on the internet or friends in my life. I figured it would make for some interesting content and go ahead and brush a few things out of the way. But we're going to get to a lot more later on. I can't give everything away in the first video, but we'll scratch the surface here real quick. Number one question that I'm asked all the time: did you drop the soap? No, I did not drop the soap. 12 different spots that I slept at during that 5 years, and I don't think, not a single one of them actually had any group showers. That's not a thing at the medium high securities like I was at. To my knowledge, I cannot confirm that there was one actual sexual assault during my entire period of incarceration in any of the jails or prisons that I was at. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, it just didn't happen at the prisons that I went to. That was more of a fighting and like a few stabbing kind of prison, not the full-fledged, wide open murder, rape. Not really where I was serving time at. Besides, I never joined a gang. I kept my head down. I played music for 7 hours a day and wrote several hundred songs. Not racist, not supremacist. I think a lot of the guys that get in a lot of trouble in there are looking for it. They want to go insane in their surroundings instead of going insane inside their own head and walking the paths of, every mistake that we made that landed us there. And I think there's two ways to go crazy in there. You can get involved in the nonsense around, or you can get involved in the nonsense inside your head when you're laying on the metal rack at night staring at the popcorn ceiling and knowing that you've got several more years to do in that hellhole. Either way you cut it, you're going to go a little bit crazy. What do you do in prison? Well, personally for me, I'm very grateful for the fact that all of the prisons that I attended actually had musical equipment programs and each had a band room. So as I mentioned before, great to fly. As I mentioned before, I spent many hours of the day playing instruments, be that drums, bass, piano, guitar, lots of practice, lots of mixing it up. I also read approximately 1,000 books during that time period. Many of them I read multiple times. I have got every single detail of the entire Harry Potter series memorized front to back. I read all 5 of the Game of Thrones books that were released at that point in time. And most people engage in the quality prison pastimes of checkers, chess, spades, and dominoes. I mean, it's just like on Austin Powers, whenever he slammed the thing down, he goes, "Domino!" It pretty much is your daily life for several years in there, hearing that nonsense all day. Those who are bored enough join gangs or sell drugs and end up having a very difficult time in prison, often having to get in fights all the time to reinforce their money. As I said, I never got involved with a gang. I never joined a car or anything of that sort for protection or anything, so I just kind of stayed out of the way, kept to myself. Also, as I said, the prisons where I did my time weren't, relatively speaking, that terribly violent. If you've seen the movie Office Space, they certainly weren't federal white-collar resort prisons. They definitely weren't federal pound-meat prisons either. So, luckily for me, the prisons that I went to were relatively laid back, and I am eternally grateful for that, because I'd rather do time at a place like that than somewhere where you have to wake up and put your boots on first thing in the morning as soon as they unlock the cells, and go to the shower with a bunch of people standing outside of it for, protection and having each other's back. All that is complete nonsense in my mind. So to answer the question of what I did, yeah, I played 100,000 games of spades. But by the time that I got to prison, I wrote 166 songs. I read master music theory books, like this thick, and learned how wrong I had been prior to my incarceration about music theory. Now I know it inside and out. Also, I read in the autobiography of Malcolm X, which was a very influential book on my life. He served 7 years, and he said, "Turn your cell into your school and your monastery." So I guess I was really trying to look at it as a form of self-improvement, and I really think that I did get my mind together in there, and in a lot of ways that I might not would have at such a young age, were it not for my incarceration. Don't get me wrong, I'll never thank the prosecutors or the judge for what they did to me, because it was complete nonsense. Everybody in the world knows I was innocent. However, most forms of spirituality teach that anything in your life can be a lesson if you will let it be, and I decided to let it be after about 2 years of letting it eat me alive. Third most popular question: what is prison like? As I'm sure you can imagine, this is a very, very, very big question. And to ask the average guy who's been 3 or 4 times, more than likely he's going to say, "Man, prison ain't nothing, man." But for someone like me, someone who had never really considered going to prison, someone that was vehement in declaring his innocence and was completely dumbfounded at what the feds did to me, to be honest, it ate my soul out of my chest. Waking up in a concrete box every single morning with barred windows and staring out there at the sky and seeing 2 lines of razor wire fences with razor wire in between the 2 in the middle, and a patrol truck going around 24 hours a day, knowing that you're not going anywhere for quite some time. Then you do the same thing, you make a routine so that you can, somehow organize your days and make the time go by faster, and then over time your exes or girlfriends and certain family members stop writing you and they kind of forget about you, and then of course whenever you get out they want to be your best friend and act like they wrote you the whole time. Prison is demoralizing, it is heartbreaking, and it is brutal. There is no aspect of rehabilitation whatsoever. The lowest estimate that I've ever seen, and I do mean the lowest, for the recidivism rate, which is the rate of men going back to prison in America, is 89%. That's the lowest that I've seen. 89% of men in prison in America have been before, or they will be back. There's no rehabilitation aspect about it. I will also admit that for a large portion of the time I was guilty of the internal reflections that I feel like can drive you insane. I would lay in bed and have memories of things that should have been long forgotten. Tore open every scar of every ex-girlfriend, and got mad at myself for little tiny one-off things that I said to people years before. I really beat myself up in a lot of ways when you're sitting there thinking about all the different paths you could have taken to not end up there. However, while I was there, I also learned to use that as a catharsis and the fuel for my songwriting, and I really learned to get these things out on paper in a way that I can then analyze them, tuck them away, and begin to move past them. And that is the most valuable tool of my life right now, and I would never learn to do it in such a deep way were it not for the hard times that I faced. One last question for this video. What were the files on your computer related to making bombs and serial killers? Well, first and foremost, I never sought out bomb-making instructions in any capacity of their own, and the government is fully aware of that. They know that. I downloaded a particular compilation of all kinds of useful but sometimes illicit things that is still on the internet to this day and has been around for quite some time. This guide includes things like getting free sodas for machines for pressing the right combination, how to get more memory from iPhones without paying for it. Also included in this very long and varied set of random tips, instructions, manifesto. Had 3 things that were pertaining to mayhem. One of them was a recipe for making thermite. One of them was how to use an exercise bike to make a blasting cap, whatever that is. And another one was how to make arsenic out of cherry pits. Arsenic out of cherry pits. I mean, we're talking like thousands of pounds of cherries. So needless to say, they pull all this up and I'm like, oh boy, you caught me, you meddling prosecutors. I was going to walk into Oxford High School dragging an exercise bike behind me right in the middle of the commons and hop on and start pedaling away until something went kaboom and nobody was going to stop me. I was going to take all that arsenic I made from those 50,000 pounds of cherries and I was going to put it in the spaghetti. I was going to show them, I can't believe they caught me. Attention government, that was sarcasm protected by law as something said in a joking or sarcastic manner. I do not and never will have any intention of killing any human being, don't worry. Yes, I had a compilation that shall remain unnamed in the possession of the files on my computer, and they cherry-picked only the horrible and negative things that were in this very, very long list of files and made it out as though I was researching bombs or bomb making, even though to my knowledge none of those 3 things actually have anything to do with blowing anything up. The prosecutor once told me that he was trying to paint a picture when we were in court, and I thought that was a pretty cool metaphor except for the fact that the painter gets to decide what is seen when they paint a picture. Doesn't have to be based on truth or reality whatsoever. Now in regard to the pictures of the serial killers, pretty sure that there's some interviews somewhere involving my mother that can clearly confirm for you that this is actually a familial interest. Now that may seem kind of morbid to you, but I think it's more when you guys run around throwing hot wings all over the floor screaming at football games and saying you hate colleges where you can get a great degree. So I mean that's obscene to me. But yes indeed, most of my family has been in criminal justice or law school in one form or another. And since I was a relatively young child, not young enough for it to be scarring me or anything, we discussed killers and serial killers and talked about it, and we were always kind of curious about what could go so wrong in a person's life as to make them think that these things would be okay. I had no intention of finding out for myself what it may feel like to do these things to other people, but the United States government is a group that's not known for taking no for an answer. Yeah, they tried to make it out as though I was obsessed in particular with Columbine, when in reality I know all about Jeffrey Dahmer, John Wayne Gacy, Issei Sagawa, Richard Chase. I could go on and on. Ed Gein, ooh, the real-life Buffalo Bill. This is just something of an interest for me, and the thing with me is I will admit that I do have an obsessive mindset, and if I'm a fan of something, I want to know every single thing about it, inside and out, if it interests me. I feel like if I say that I'm interested in something and I don't actually know about it, it's like if I was wearing this shirt and some guy comes up to me and said, hey man, you like Blink-182? And I'm like, oh, I love them, man, but I only know that one song, All the Small Things. Like if you're interested in something, study it. Like I said, I can tell you every Harry Potter spell forward and backwards. It's kind of how my mind works. However, I do not have an emphasis on the Columbine Massacre. Just had a bit of an interest in the macabre. So that was the very first video to come. I also meant to tell you the reason that it was so delayed. I meant to get it started in February. As part of my probation, I was actually sent to rehab because I have a long history of abusing substances. And as a precaution, my probation officer decided it would be a good idea to go. And I had an absolutely amazing time. I met some incredible people. I mean, Miss Jordan, Miss Stacy, Mike Jones, Miss B, Joanna, and David out there at Region 4. Let me tell you, they're doing the Lord's work out there. I actually learned a lot about sobriety and my Just for Today bracelet. And I now regularly attend AA and NA meetings. So thank you all for checking out this video. Real quick, I'm going to do some mandatory shout outs, but I didn't write a list down, so I'm probably going to forget a few of them. First off, big shout out to the Tan Fam Clan, the Dream Team. Love you guys. Tanner, Wendy, Crystal, Chris, they just told me their names earlier too, man. Tristan, Dwayne. Oh man, I'm forgetting somebody. Holy Near. Oh, you guys are my dogs. I love y'all. Sorry this took so long to come out. I'd like to thank everybody at the rehab that I attended. They treated me like a human being, which is something that I've lacked for the last several years. I'd like to give a massive shout out to my entire family, my little brother letting me use the camera. My mom's letting me stay with her right now while I get back on my feet. They've financially, emotionally supported me while I was in prison, and that is something that will mean more to me for the rest of my life than you guys could ever understand. And last but not least, the person who has possibly had the most significant impact on my life, and that is Dan, also known as Silent Core. I've been a fan of Dan's YouTube career since I was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. He originally started on RuneScape. When I got out of prison, I did an interview with him that went quite viral, got me enough money to get some video equipment and music equipment so I can keep releasing content for you guys, and I'd like to show you some of my songs and see, you know, maybe if I can help you get through things as well. But Dan, you have no idea, man. I've got 10,000 subscribers right now, and it's only set to grow from here, and I owe everything that I have right now to you, man. You completely changed my life, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad and proud to consider you a close personal friend, especially because I was literally watching your videos with my girlfriend the day before I got arrested. She knows who you are too, man. She was probably like, oh my god, that's so crazy, he's in a Silent Core video now? Wow. Thank you to everyone. Thank you for everything. There's going to be plenty more where this came from. Just let me get a little bit situated on my feet. I'm sorry for the delay in the videos. More to come soon. Thank you very much.